Hello, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me this evening. And it's been a while since I've done any um, Wednesday night live CBD streaming, and I thought it's high time we did one, and we should do another one on the teleconsultation or telemedicine, and this time with a twist because we're going to talk about WhatsApp, the very popular WhatsApp, and should we use it for teleconsultation? What are the pitfalls, tips, and tricks? Okay, so the session will take about half an hour. Got about 30 slides to share, and some things you might already know, but I think I hope to summarize because telemedicine might be new to some of you, okay, but some of you could be equally experienced. So, who knows, some of you may already be using WhatsApp for teleconsultation, okay. So here goes. Now, I'd like to start with a disclaimer. Okay, I'm not a lawyer. Okay, so and I am not representing the MMC or Malaysian Medical Council. So please don't take this as legal or regulatory advice. I'm speaking in the capacity of someone who has been practicing or using telemedicine in my practice for a number of years now. So this is just an educational talk to share my experience with you. And from what I gather are the important things you need to know if you want to make use of telemedicine, okay? If you watch till the end, you can claim a CPD point. So this talk has been approved by the MMA as a CPD claimable CPD event. Okay. If you enjoyed, also please don't forget. I appreciate if you could just hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed to our channel, please do hit the subscribe and notification bell. All right, that would help our video spread amongst other people who have the same interests. Okay. All right. I'll just go with the initial bit, which is the definition. So we all are very clear on what we are talking about. Okay. So what is teleconsultation? Now, there's a difference between teleconsultation and telemedicine. And just teleconsultation is just part of telemedicine, okay? And if you take telemedicine in the whole scope, it actually encompasses a very wide variety of healthcare delivery via remote means, okay? And so teleconsultation is just remote consultation, and it uses some communication tool in the past, and even now today we could use a simple phone or text message, but nowadays with the internet, broadband, we nowadays use smartphones or computers. Text messaging has evolved beyond the 256 character limitation of SMS to more sophisticated messaging and audio visual communication tools, okay? Now, but the talk today will focus on, can we use WhatsApp? And I think WhatsApp fits with all the modern communication tools. You can use it on the smartphone or computer. It has text messaging, audio visual. But should we use WhatsApp for teleconsultation? So we'll go through all the points and then let you decide, okay? Should you or should you not use WhatsApp for telemedicine? All right, next. If you're new to teleconsultation, I just like to share with you what I think are the three pillars of best teleconsultation practice. Okay, and it's easy to remember if you think of I, C, and D. Okay. I for informed consent and identification. C for adequate coverage, okay, in terms of compliance with regulations and coverage in terms of indemnity. And D for documentation and defer if necessary. I'll just elaborate a little bit about these three pillars of best teleconsultation practice. Okay. The first I, or informed consent, I think, ensure that you have taken informed consent before you embark on teleconsultation with any of your patients. And this is important because otherwise, they don't know the scope or the limitations of teleconsultation. I put a sample informed consent form in this link here, which is bit.ly/teleconsent. And I'll just show you a little bit about, I don't know whether you can see, let me go full screen here. And, this, there are 6 points in this telemedicine consent, and it gives them the right to withhold or withdraw consent without affecting the rights to future care or treatment. So it doesn't take over your existing treatment arrangement or management arrangement between the patient. And the laws that protect the confidentiality also apply to telemedicine. So it's very, very important. So you can specify that you do not want recording, and important to specify that you do not want the session to be shared. So these sessions, they have to be clear that the sessions are confidential and not disclosed to anyone without authorization. And also there are possibilities of technical failure and so on. And I think it's very important to emphasize that teleconsultation using any telemedicine service may not be as complete as physical consultation or true physical visit. For instance, you can't really examine the patient thoroughly, okay, like you would. So if you feel that the patient would be better served with a physical consultation, you should advise as such, okay? And unless you are planning to be awake 24 hours a day, and I think you can't as an individual be providing emergency service through telemedicine. So usually all the telemedicine services would say that it is not appropriate for medical emergencies, and this is best sought by going to an emergency unit. Okay, so that's in a nutshell the basic telemedicine consent form you should ask your patient to read, understand before you embark on telemedicine with them. Okay, now the next I is proper identification. So I think, it may sound very basic, but I think you really should be sure who you are engaging with. It's very dangerous to take a phone call and then assume what sounds like the patient is the patient. Okay, what sounds like may not be like the exact person you're talking with. So make sure you are engaging with the patients and they are properly identified. And usually visually would be the best, and you are using a registration process if you're using a proper telemedicine platform. Okay, the C would be adequate coverage in terms, are you covered by what the current regulatory regulations are or laws. Now, you may have heard of the Telemedicine Act 1997. So this is 25 years old and it's never ever been enforced. So the only thing we have are two things. One is the MMC has issued most recently a telemedicine advisory. So you can I'll put a short link to it here, bit.ly MMC advisory, and you can read it at your leisure. I'll just show you here what it is. It actually came out as a result of a massive uptick in the use of telemedicine because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So while they're still trying to revise the telemedicine laws and regulations, they had to come up with some form of some form of guidelines. Okay, so yeah, it's just basically best medical practice and how you should use telemedicine while employing best medical practice. Um, there are some things which they have stated, and number nine may be of special of interest because they did say that the doctor can have virtual consultation with a patient who is already his or her patient. Means you really should be doing this only with your follow-up patients, and they are not too happy if it is a new patient. But notwithstanding, because there are a lot of telemedicine companies providing sort of healthcare advice, so they do allow telemedicine where it is they call health advice, okay, for wellness during a virtual consultation. So they could do that for patients you've not physically seen before. Though I am not very clear, sometimes the line between health advice and professional consultation may not be um, maybe a little bit blurred. Okay. All right. Now, the other C, are you covered? And that's very, very important if you're going to embark on teleconsultation. It's not different from physical practice. So you really need to have adequate medical indemnity. And you need to ensure that your medical indemnity covers teleconsultation. So please check. Now, I am with MPS, and MPS has confirmed that they do cover telemedicine, and you do not need to inform them. Okay, some other medical indemnity may cover, but require you to inform them. But from what from what I'm aware, I think most of the major medical indemnities do cover telemedicine these days. Okay, that covers I, C, and then the D. Okay, where like all encounters with patients, please document your consultation thoroughly in your clinical records or electronic medical records. And MPS at least advise you do not actually have to make a recording as long as you document it thoroughly. Okay. The other D, which I would like to remind you once again, is to always defer to a physical visit because there are limitations to teleconsultation. So your threshold should be low. Whenever you feel it is necessary that you cannot adequately examine the patient or unable to assess the patient adequately, always advise the patient, please come to see me in the clinic, or if you think it's urgent, I think you should go to the emergency room. So if you also provide some treatment advice, then you could always add, if not better, please come see me in the clinic. Okay. So that's the three, what I think are the three pillars of good teleconsultation practice. So what about WhatsApp? Okay, that's the major topic of today. You know, how does this fit in? Now, WhatsApp, I think everybody knows, it's a social media messaging platform, which is now owned by Meta. Okay, what was formerly known as Facebook is now been renamed as Meta. And why is it important? Because it's very wildly popular. There are more than 2 billion users worldwide. Okay. But just because it's popular doesn't mean it's appropriate. So, is it suitable for teleconsultation? So, I'm going to go through some points which will help you decide whether or not you should use or should not use WhatsApp for teleconsultation. Okay, let's deal with the pitfalls or the limitations of WhatsApp. Now, one of the things you like to do is store contacts on your mobile device or phone. But bear in mind, you know, if you store patient information on your device and you don't secure your device properly, your device could be in violation of the PDPA. Okay. The other issue is, you know, Meta or Facebook collects data on all the users, all your contacts. And actually, you know, I don't think your PDPA agreement would say, even if you have one, would say that I allow your data to be collected by Facebook. Okay. So, you know, if you do put your patient information on your device, it could be violating the PDPA. And how much data does WhatsApp, Facebook collect? a lot. I think earlier last year there was a huge controversy when Facebook wanted to get all WhatsApp users to agree to a new condition allowing them to share all WhatsApp data with Facebook. If you don't do that, then you have to stop using WhatsApp. There was a big hoo-ha. There was a huge migration of users to the more private messaging platforms like Signal and Telegram, which collect far less data than WhatsApp, as you can see, and and WhatsApp is sharing the data with Facebook. So I think if you don't want your patient's data to be collected from you to Facebook, then you shouldn't be storing your patient data on the phone at all. You know, okay. Now, because some people are very confused about what is security and privacy. They may say, "Oh no, but WhatsApp it's very secure. It's got 100 and 512 kilobit. Oh, sorry, 512 uh, kilobit encryption, and it's very secure end to end, and so on." Please don't confuse security with privacy. No matter how strong the encryption is, what's the point if WhatsApp is going to collect the data anyway, on your users? The other thing is this is a social media platform, so it's very easily forwarded. Whatever you share or you discuss with the other party is easily forwarded and shared with others. Okay, so they don't even have to take a screenshot. You just forward to another person or group and so on. So that thing can just viral, even if it is meant to be private. Okay. So I personally do not store patient information on my phone. No names, contact, email, nothing on my phone. So if somebody WhatsApps you and says, "I am so and so," I think you should always, especially if you're dealing with a patient or a relative of a patient, always request confirmation or identity. So, for instance, I would say, "Oh, all right, could you please confirm your name and the hospital or clinic record number and so on, so that I can properly identify you." And you probably have to do that each time for every new encounter, because phone numbers are not fixed, so you cannot be sure that the same number is being used by that person in some time in the future. So you have to really, if you want to use WhatsApp to communicate with somebody for even general communication on a medical basis, you really have to be sure who you're identifying with. And by right, you should always request confirmation of identity. Same thing if you're doing on a phone call or so on. Okay, just like the banks, when they call you, they always go through a confirmation or identity sequence. What's your name, what's your IC number, and so on. Now, this is also important because you don't want to accidentally message the wrong recipient, and it can be quite disastrous. Okay, needless to say. Now, just like any teleconsultation platform, as I mentioned earlier, the data needs to be documented. Okay, you need to document. So just because you have communicated with a patient on WhatsApp about something, you really need to document your encounter in your medical records. Okay, even though it's not a consultation, but it's some form of communication. Is that I have communicated with the patient so and so, and about this, when and about that. Okay. Now, the disturbing thing is WhatsApp now has this so-called disappearing messages feature that can be turned on by the other party. So messages can be auto-deleted, and that can be disastrous from a medical legal point of view. And the whole exchange, the conversation could deteriorate, in a court of law to be what he said or she said, and there's no documentation. Now, actually, proper medical records and indeed proper teleconsultation messaging platforms, the messages should not be deletable by either party. Sorry, there's a spelling error there. Either party. So, in case of dispute, it is always on the record. So, I think WhatsApp fails here. Okay, so I think you should bear that in mind. So the other thing about D is defer to proper physical visit whenever in doubt. Okay, as I said, all remote consultation platforms have limitations, primarily because you are not able to perform a thorough physical examination, even though you can visually assess the patient and hear there's some auditory clues, and a lot of it is through the history and the conversation with the patient. So if there are doubts, you cannot assess the patient properly, so always defer the patient to a physical visit, either to your clinic or to the emergency room. If the patient, what's my practice is if the patient turns a WhatsApp conversation to a request for a medical opinion or a consultation, I actually defer the WhatsApp conversation to a dedicated telemedicine platform, failing which if they are unable to, then defer it to a physical visit. I think that's the proper way, you know. So I will share some of the telemedicine platforms which I use, but I prefer not to engage patients on WhatsApp. Okay, so my tip after all these things with WhatsApp, I've shared with you the pitfalls and it fails to check all the boxes for best teleconsultation practice. I think it is best not to use WhatsApp for teleconsultation. Okay, so is it totally useless? Absolutely not, because there are more than 2 billion users, mind you. Okay, so uh, I would say, you know, it is useful for general communication because it is so widely used. So there are many instances where you want to send a WhatsApp to a patient. Say you can't get the patient on the line, or you just want to send a message. Okay, it's very useful for general communication. So how do you use it? And I'm going to give you some tips on what I do on a daily basis. I would advise you to separate your personal WhatsApp from work WhatsApp, because I think you should have a distinct line between work and your personal or social engagement, because there'll be no confusion and no accidental leakages of things or sending message to the wrong group, etc. So separate your personal WhatsApp from your work WhatsApp. Then a lot of you be groaning here. Do you need two phones to do this? Okay, one for work and one for personal. Okay, I know some of you do. Okay, actual fact, if you can make do with just one phone. Okay, and this is the tip, and I think some of you may not be aware, but you can actually have two WhatsApp in one phone. And the way to do this is use WhatsApp, the main WhatsApp, for your personal messaging, and for work related, you can download something called WhatsApp Business. Okay, this is available in the Play Store and the Apple App Store, and it's free to use. There's no need to pay anything to use WhatsApp Business. Okay, so but you still say, oh, do I need two numbers then? Or you can't have the same number for WhatsApp and WhatsApp Business. Yes, you could have two mobile numbers where you activate the WhatsApp Business using another phone with that mobile number, but in actual fact, and here's the tip, you do not need two mobile numbers, because WhatsApp Business can use a landline. Okay, and if anything, you listen to this talk, if you're not aware of this, this is probably the best tip I have for you. Okay, you can separate your personal and work WhatsApp, and you can have two WhatsApp in one phone, and you do not need two mobile numbers. Just one mobile number will do, and you use WhatsApp Business and you register a landline with it. So how do you do that? This is how you get a WhatsApp Business with a landline. You need to be sitting next to your landline. It could be your office or clinic phone, okay? And it needs to be a line where you can dial in direct. It cannot be an extension where you dial a main number and then dial an extension. It has to be something which the WhatsApp can call directly in, and you need to be next to it when you're doing this. So what you do is you open WhatsApp Business for the first time, then you enter your landline number. So it can be 603-123-45678 or something like that. And then you click on next. Okay. So if you click on next, then normally WhatsApp will try to do is send an SMS code to that number, which it will fail, of course, because it's a landline and it does not have SMS capability. So there will be a minute. Well, you'll wait until the minute countdown is over. Then you'll ask you whether you want to try again or call me. And that's the thing. You select call me. So when the SMS countdown finishes, you ask WhatsApp to call your phone. And then that's why you have to be next to it. And when the phone rings, you will hear a robotic voice tell you the code is 1234 or whatever it is. And that's when you enter that code and your WhatsApp Business is activated and it has your landline as the WhatsApp Business line. That's all to it. Okay, completely free to use and very easy to set up. You just need to be next to the landline. Okay. Well, why use WhatsApp Business? I think it has a lot more features than the normal WhatsApp. You can label your messages, so you can categorize them, and it's useful for organizing. You can filter your messages by label. So I want to see messages which have been engaging with patients only, or with colleagues, or with pharma, or whatever. Okay, and they are color coded. All right, so labeling is very, very useful. And this is found under the business tools. Okay, so you can check the other features of the business tool. Say you can set up a business profile, so you can tell others about your clinic, the address, the location, any email address or website, etc. So you can set up a business profile. You can set a greeting message, which is all optional. So the first time somebody messages you on your business WhatsApp, they will get a greeting message. You can set an away message so that if you're not available, and it's actually quite clever because it detects your clinic times, and then outside those clinic times, you can actually set an away message, say I'm not available, I'm only available in such and such a time or day. Okay. And the one which I find very, very useful is ability to use quick replies. So you can set short sentences and then a quick reply, which is called up by slash single word. Okay, and then the whole phrase will come out. So these are like shortcuts. Okay, so you can enter quick replies as multiple shortcuts. Very, very useful whenever you have frequent messages you want to send or inform the other party. Okay, so you're here. That's the end of the talk. Just half an hour, I promised you, so I've kept to time. And here's a summary. I personally do not advise you guys to use WhatsApp for teleconsultation, given all the pitfalls which I mentioned earlier. And also simply because there are already proper and more compliant platforms that you can use. So for example, if you want to use audio visual teleconsultation, there's a free one you can use called doxy.me, and that's the one I use. If you subscribe to doxy.me, there are a lot more features there, but you can use the basic version for free as an audio-visual teleconsultation platform. It is an American service, so you can bet it's HIPAA compliant, which is far more stricter than what we have in Malaysia. Okay, there are some comprehensive telemedicine platforms which bundle text messaging, lab requests, prescription requests, and attachments, etc., and even scheduling for clinic and telemedicine. So you can sign up for free with vipcare.my, and your patients can subscribe to your telemedicine service in that vipcare.my. Another one which has been around for some time is teleme.co. Also has a lot of features there, including text messaging, prescription, and laboratory requests, and so on. And then if you are, don't forget that teleconsultation is not necessarily just between doctor and patient, but it could be, say, a group discussion about patient for group management. And a lot of you use WhatsApp to discuss patients, share for ECGs, X-rays, and let me tell you, all this is not compliant. Okay, you already have a compliant platform, and the one I've shared with you in the previous talk is called Silo, and you can sign up for free and use Silo. It works just like WhatsApp, but it checks all the boxes in terms of proper medical compliance. Okay, so I think you do not use WhatsApp for teleconsultation. I think if you want to be safe, all right, use one of the compliant platforms. However, if you want to use a text engagement tool for your patients, you just draw the line and say, okay, you can use this for general communication, but I am unable to provide consultation through WhatsApp, and I am able to share any health data like your lab results, radiology, etc., because of its sensitive data under the PDPA. So you give the patient the option to use WhatsApp Business with you for communicating about general things. For example, they may just have some requests, or doctor, are you available this particular day and time, or can I see you, etc., or I need a letter, and so on. Things like that, I think it's fine. The other thing, at using a WhatsApp Business, if you register it with your landline, then you don't reveal your own personal mobile phone. Okay, so that's the other advantage. So you can freely use it for general work-related communication with patients, but do not share your sensitive data. And I certainly do not advocate you use it for teleconsultation. All right. Okay, so I'm waiting. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Okay, and you can ask me in the Facebook or in YouTube, wherever you're watching from. And while we are waiting for questions, if there are any, I'm going to generate the QR code so you all get a CBD point. Okay, so just bear with me while I generate the QR code from the MMA website. Okay. Any questions? Okay, there are no questions. That's the event QR code. Anybody using WhatsApp for teleconsultation, or you don't want to confess that you do? Don't be shy. Okay, everybody got your point? Yep, works for me. I hope it works for you. If anything you got out of it is those the WhatsApp business tip I've shared with colleagues. They found it very useful. Okay, so if you have a clinic, you don't need to actually get a special mobile phone just for WhatsApp with patients. You can actually register using WhatsApp Business and use a landline, okay, which can be conveniently your clinic line. And you do not have to fear releasing your personal mobile number to other people. Okay, so it's a very useful tool for general communication. All right, and the other useful thing about WhatsApp, of course, you can use it on the web. web.whatsapp.com. In fact, I do that at work. I don't like to work out of tiny mobile phones. It's very difficult to text on the phone while working in the clinic. If you have a desktop or a laptop, I prefer to use the web version. And it's improved somewhat with the ability of WhatsApp web to run independent of a mobile phone. Last time it could work only when your phone is active and connected to the internet. Now it can work independent of the phone. Okay, but it's still a bit clunky, but better than nothing. Okay, so the web version is very useful as well. Okay, so I think you would have scanned by now, and feel free to ask any questions. If you leave a question in the comments below, I'll try to answer them, even though you're not watching this live. Okay, he might be able to get one of the lawyers who have given one of our previous medical legal talks to come in on a later date to give a professional legal opinion about using WhatsApp for teleconsultation. So watch out for that in one of our future sessions. So I think with that, I'm going to end the broadcast. I hope you enjoyed the talk. I hope you whether you agree with me or not, but at least I've stated some of the points about using WhatsApp for teleconsultation, which you should be aware of, and what the limitations are. So do consider using a dedicated teleconsultation platform. Okay, so with that, I'll say good night and have a good rest of the week ahead. All right, take care.